Hi.
Hello.
Our daily reflection for today comes from John 13, verse 34.
I could sing this one.
Yep, could you?
I could, but you read it. That's all right.
A new commandment I give you. Love another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you are my disciples if you love one another.
Can I have $1 for every time I've sung that? It's really difficult, isn't it? Because this is such an important thing, and yet I feel like, for me, it can be a bit trivialised because it's just been sung so many times over the years that I lose the importance of it and the intent behind it
and the profoundness of it.
And it was new. It was new for them.
Yeah.
For the disciples.
Although, it was. They were meant to love one another, love your neighbour as yourself. They knew that, but Jesus took it to another level, didn't he? And obviously, in Matthew and the Sermon on the Mount, and in other places, it talks about loving your enemies. So that takes it to another incredibly radical level about what it means to care for and love each other. And would the world be a better place if we were all able to do this?
It definitely would be a better place if everybody loved each other as well as their enemies.
Yeah, and
Jesus is talking about loving one another.
Yeah, and even more profound, what the church would be like if we did this. Because just because we're followers of Jesus doesn't mean to say this high bar is one we're able to sustain. Just think of the number of church splits or broken relationships that I know through the church, and the work that we've done in maintaining relationships over the years. And trying to do this. It's a lot easier sung than done.
That was rhyming poetry.
Maybe we should write a song about it. But the next bit, the second half of it, I think often we forget. By this will everyone know that you are my disciples if you love one another. That there's something incredibly profound in this, that God expects that the way we as followers of Jesus love one another and get on with each other, forgive one another, is the heart of getting the message of being witnesses and ambassadors for God. And I just think as God's church, we've missed the boat so many times, particularly in this space. And when the world looks at us and say, you haven't got a message for us because you can't get on, then God would say, I think they're right. They've got a fair reason not to listen to your message because they're not prepared to love.
And it makes me sigh.
Yeah.
Why does this happen? And I guess this is partly why we talk about here in Hobart, God's church in Hobart, as in all the people who are believers in Hobart.
From Jesus' perspective, there's one church in Hobart, and a whole lot of different variations and and different ways in which people think about it and different ways in which people live it, but there's only really one church. And Jesus would love us to get on with each other, and because that love will reflect the love that God has for the Son and the Son has for God. It will reflect the very nature of who God is. And so that's why it's so critical and paramount and important. And as I said, it's not easy to do though. It's a high bar that Jesus sets in this.
Absolutely. And I think over the history of all the things that different groups of Christians, so-called, have done, and people who've amassed wealth for themselves in the name of Jesus, and in the end it's just been for themselves. It's hard to love those, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to want to have unity with people like that, it's a difficult scenario.
I don't think Jesus said it was easy.
No.
And when Jesus himself demonstrate what that love looks like, he was willing to die to demonstrate that love. So love sometimes really has a very negative outflow, that you're willing to be looked like a fool, you're willing to be ashamed, you're willing to be crucified, you're willing to be falsely accused, a whole host of things that was sitting in that Jesus did in demonstrating what love looks like. And yet we haven't been good at it. But there are numerous examples, thousands, millions of examples of people through the years who have followed Jesus' commands to love, whether it's in families, whether it's in broken relationships, whether it's in marriages, whether it's being burnt at the stake, being thrown to the lions, throughout history, many, many people have done this. And it's changed the world. And it will change the world again. It will change the world today if the majority of people do this.
Love one another. Go and do likewise. That's what Jesus would say.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye.